Buongiorno, come sta, and grazie mille. Welcome to the Italian episode of the Douglas Coleman Show, in honor of my returning guest, who is of Italian heritage. I'm very excited to have him back on the show today. I've wanted to have him back on the show for a while now, because the last time he was here, we didn't have nearly enough time to talk or to play more of his fabulous music. So today he's back with a full interview and lots of great music as well. We're going to play 3 of his songs during the interview, but I thought I would play this track before the interview. This one is an instrumental track with a ripping guitar, and it's got a great feel to it. I really love it. Okay, well, no time to waste. So this is Circa 73 by Joe Gande.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on The Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Acclaimed author of Garden, Jane Yates brings you the first book in a new trilogy, Octopus Pirate, a story of a foundling who has unusual talents. such as the ability to communicate with octopuses. As a baby, he was washed up on an island off the Scottish mainland. An eccentric former nun who lives alone with cats brings him up. He joins a circus and narrowly escapes plots against him, flees to Cornwall, builds a replica pirate ship that's also an airship to travel back in time to fight real pirates. Get your copy today from Amazon, only 99 cents.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps from the UK, record producer, engineer. You might have heard of me. I've worked with artists from Elton John to Led Zeppelin to Bad Company, Twisted Sister, Robbie Williams, Oasis, many, many great bands and artists in the past and the present and hopefully in the future. But you can work with me as well. You know, all you got to do is get in touch with me on epsmusicproductions.com. That's EWPSproductionsmusic.com. And I can help you with your productions and with your recordings. A lot of people do home recordings now, which you can only take so far. Maybe they need a bit of professional help. So get in touch with me and we can sort it out. And thanks for Douglas Coleman for giving me the spot. Thanks a lot. Cheers, bye.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Ooh, don't know my own strength.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
He's a singer-songwriter, guitarist, pianist, producer, arranger, and Italian. Loves food and loves to cook, music, art, reading, and collecting books. History and ancient history, movies, flea markets, antiques, and collectibles. All things vintage and retro, animals and animal rights. He is currently writing and working on a new cookbook, which will hopefully be out soon. He was born and raised in Connecticut and has been a long-time New Yorker living in Manhattan for many years. Okay, please welcome back to the Douglas Coleman Show, Joe Gande. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Hi, Douglas. I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, and thank you for coming back to the show. I wanted to let you know that you have the distinction of being only one of three. You're the third person who is a return guest to the Douglas Coleman Show. So it's a very exclusive club you're in, Joe.
Oh, wow. That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me again. It's great to be here.
Well, the last time you were here, you were part of a 2-hour musical showcase, which was great, but we just didn't have enough time to talk. And I know that after the interview, we ran on for a while, off the air. And I really wanted to get you back so that we could, go in a little more detail and just have a little more time to chat. And so thank you for coming back. The one thing I did want to touch with you again, now you just told me before we went on that you're in Connecticut right now. Connecticut is is where you grew up, right? That's where you were.
Yes.
Okay. Where in Connecticut? What?
Hartford.
Hartford. Okay.
I was born in Hartford. I grew up in Wethersfield.
Okay. No, I was just going to ask you to tell us a little bit about your childhood. What was it like being Joe Gande as a little kid? What did you do?
Oh, geez. Well, it was great. I was very lucky to have a really good childhood, I would say. My mom and dad encouraged me and always let me do my own thing, and especially when it comes to music. The house was full of music and art, and my dad was a musician, and my mom sang and painted, and so I'd have to say it was great. And I was very lucky to always have their support growing up. Lots of food, love, music and books galore everywhere.
You told me that today actually is the anniversary of your dad's passing, which I thought was kind of interesting. I know we talked about your dad last time you were on, that he was a famous jazz musician back in the day. How many years has he been gone?
About, I don't know.
Let's see. Okay. Tough question. We stumped him.
It is a tough question. Hold on a second. It's been almost 20 years.
20 years, okay.
No.
Yeah?
Maybe about that. Yeah. 98, about 18 years.
18 years, okay. Well,
it seems like yesterday that it happened.
I know. And, it never really goes away. I mean, you had mentioned that it was kind of a superstitious thing that, you know, it was the day, and I have that
was
too.
Cool.
Yeah, I have that too. With my father, it was August 29th. And for me, you know, all kinds of weird things always happen on August 29th. But what was funny, because being such a huge Beatles fan, that was the day that they performed their last concert ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was in Candlestick Park, 1966. So it was just odd that he died on that day, you know, because I thought, oh, well, you know, it was a significant date for me musically. And then, you know, and now it has that on top of it. So it just was kind of funny. So when you said that, I thought, oh, yeah, okay, there is that sort of connection to things. But I think
it seems
it's
to be
true.
that way sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a point to that. I think that there is a connection. I don't want to get too cosmic, but, you know, like energy or
right.
something, you know, there's something about that. When you said you were going to come on the show, I went on your YouTube site and I watched one of your videos, and I had to laugh. It was just, there was this great scene, and I'm sorry I can't remember the song that was attached to it because I was so into the visual part of it. But it kind of shows you, like, somebody's filming you walking down the street. You're in New York. You stop to buy a hot dog off the street. You got a cigarette dangling from your mouth. And and you kind of have that New York, hurry up, I'm in a hurry look on your face. And I just started laughing because I sort of miss the East Coast. You know, I'm from Boston, but I haven't lived there since 2005. And I just sort of miss that attitude, that environment, you know, and the hot dogs off the street. And when I saw that, I just like, oh, he's such a New Yorker. Look at that face, you know.
Those are the dirty water dogs. Those are delicious,
Oh, it was a very good video, though. Very funny.
I do miss it a lot because I haven't been, you know, I've been going back and forth and spending most of my time in Connecticut because of my mom being unwell. So I've taken a lot of time out because it's that time now when, you know, take care of your parents that took care of you. So,
well, it's true. It comes around, you know.
It does. And, but yeah, that was like a bunch of different shoots of a whole day, and we just kind of put it together. Someone put it together for me and edited all the different scenes. But that day I was on the way to rehearsal and got a hot dog. Or something else. I think I got coffee and a donut or something.
Oh, there you go. Well, it just was, it was just quintessentially New York. You know, you're walking, you're in a hurry, you got somewhere to go. You got to stop and grab the hot dog on the way. No time to eat. You know, it was just perfect. I loved it.
You know, what's funny about that is the lady that was filming, we're just walking down the street and she's just walking around the street and all the people and everything. And some guy came out of the hotel and said, Joe, and started having this big conversation with me. And, you know, like when you see somebody, you know them, but you forget who they are.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm like, in all of New York, right now I'm filming. Someone's got to recognize me and come out and say hello. So we had this big conversation. Turns out he knew my cousin. And that was on there too, but we edited that part out. But right in the middle of it, that happened, which is, you would think with all the people there, you really wouldn't see anybody. But he was working at Madison Square Garden, I guess.
Right. Now, speaking of work, you told me last time that you used to work on Music Row in New York City, right?
Yes, 48th Street.
48th Street. Now, that was all the, like, Sam Ash and Daddy's Junkie Music and all the kind of guitar music shops were all sort of right there, right? Mm-hmm. And most of that is gone now, as I recall.
It is all gone. I think the last store, the last holdout was Rudy's Music Stop, and that closed this past year, I believe. Yeah, Sam Ash moved downtown somewhere, and it was great. I was lucky to see the end of its heyday. I was working on the row for about, I think, 12 years.
What do you think happened? What do you think? Why did all those shops close?
There's many reasons. The music business changed. It used to be a mecca for everyone from all over the world to come. I mean, I had accounts in Argentina and England and all over the place because it was the place where they got the first gear and the top of the line. The newest stuff would come in there first before anywhere else in the world. And the prices, were really good. Plus, there's like 10 stores on one block. The competition made all the prices lower. And, we had to deal with all the stars and rock stars and pop stars of the time. And there's a lot of history on that street. So, and then, so they started opening stores in the suburbs and doing the price thing. And so that changed a little. But then after 9/11 as well, this block became kind of like a ghost town. It was, the city was slower. Everything kind of changed. And Manhattan is much different than when I first came there, the first 10 years or so. The rents are higher. It's not as easy to get by in the city. And but they started closing a few of them. I remember I worked at Sam Ash, and then I worked at Manny's, which was, its rival.
Right.
Across the street. And that was the best of times there, I got to say. And I'm still the greatest friends with everyone there. It was like we all grew up together, we're like brothers. Kind of like soldiers that have that unique, bonds that you go through. I think New Yorkers in general have that a little bit.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah. New York has got a lot of community that
Yes.
LA doesn't have at all. LA hasn't a clue what community is. And
yeah, that's what I hear. I've seen. Yeah.
I just had on the show Todd Newton. I don't know if you know who he is. He was a game show host. He hosted that show Whammy, Press Your Luck, and he's doing The Price is Right live now. And, we got into that conversation because he loves New York. And he says it's just so different. I mean, New York, you run into people all the time. You're walking on the street. LA, everybody just jumps into their car and they're sort of isolated in their little car and on the freeway and nobody talks to anybody, Yeah,
it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I mean, you even get to know everyone from your laundry guy to, the deli guy who, makes your lunch and stuff. You get to be pretty close with everybody.
You think about it. If you live in an apartment, you're going to, just from going to your apartment, say, to going to work, if you walk or you take the subway, I mean, how many people are you going to encounter? Lots, thousands, right?
Yeah.
And you may not talk to anybody, but, like you said, if you stop for coffee or you get a bagel or something, the people that work there, they get to know you. And you just have much more human contact than you do in LA, where everybody's in their car trying not to look at anybody when they pass them on the freeway.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's one of the best things about the city.
Oh, absolutely.
Plus the diversity and the different cultures and different neighborhoods, and chances are you're going to run into somebody.
Now, you said that Music Row was on 48th Street and which avenue?
It was between 5th and 7th Avenue.
5th and 7th, okay. I'm just thinking back to the days that when I was
6th and 7th, rather.
Okay. Yeah, there's two in there.
Now that I think about it.
5, 6, 7. There you go. Okay. I just thinking back to the days when I lived in New York, and that was in the very early 80s. And I remember that things, when I went back, like in the 90s, it had changed a lot, even in those 10 or 15 years. I mean, Times Square in those days was kind of a dump, really. It was all porno palaces and, sort of drug dealers hanging out on the streets and stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. And then when I went back, about 15 years later, it was like the Disney store and it was real family kind of, I was like, what did they do with everybody?
Yeah, it did change a lot, which actually being a New Yorker for so long was kind of took a lot of the character out of the city in a funny kind of way. I mean, it was good that a lot of the bad stuff was gone. You could actually walk down the street around there with your family after 10, 'cause
right.
before you wouldn't be able to get out that late at night. It was pretty dangerous, but it did change some type of ambiance or vibe of the city, getting rid of the real street life.
I think it sort of sterilized it.
Yeah.
It turned it into
very, very commercial.
Yes, very commercial, and it just turned it into like a theme park. Oh well, times change, and I guess we just have to live with them.
I know. And 48th Street was so great because, everybody came from all over, but also, there was a bar right across the street. And at any given time, you could walk in there and have lunch or something, and you could see, like, Rod Stewart sitting there, or, Ozzy Osbourne would, be there. So, Right Track Studios was right there, and so many stores, Alex Music, 48th Street Custom, and Manny's and Sam Ash and Rudy's, and all the repair shops. In fact, when my father visited me up there one day, he walked around with my manager of Sam Ash, and he was pointing to all the buildings showing where he used to rehearse and hang out with guys back in the 50s and 60s. So a lot of history.
Did you have any famous customers that would come in and work with you? Anybody we would know?
I did.
I'm dropping a couple names.
Yeah. I mean, after a while, near the end, they would send runners to get their stuff or call you up and say, Joe, this is what I need. Or if they're on the road, they'd call. I mean, I had a lot of accounts. But I was shocked and very freaked out a bunch of times. Yeah. I mean, I remember the first time I think I met someone was Stevie Wonder came in.
Wow.
And they sectioned off a spot for him to try pianos and stuff. And another time the first year I was there, Robert Palmer came in. I sold him a bunch of gear. I think Cyndi Lauper. When Ozzy was doing a record at Right Track, I brought them all their gear. I don't know. The list goes on and on. You never know who's going to be in at a given time. And it was pretty exciting. And a lot of them were regulars and knew the owners. So they'd come in and chat, and we'd take them up to the back room, so they could pick out whatever they like. And it was a great experience.
Let's play one of your songs. I'm excited to hear these. You sent me four songs that I've never heard, so I'm
yes.
anxious to hear them. Which one do you want to play first? We've got Been So Many Years, Brighter Day, Circa 73, and Save Me.
I guess you could do Brighter Day, I think.
Okay.
My dad's passing. That song has a lot of vibe about that within it, so maybe Brighter Day would be good.
Okay, so the story of that song is really about your father, yeah?
A little bit, yeah. My songs tend to be kind of abstract, so all people could kind of relate in their own way, but it does have much of that, to it, especially with the feeling, especially when I was recording the track and doing the lyrics. And a lot of times, I do the lyrics as we go. I'm not one to sit down write down everything once ahead of time. I kind of make them up, even live at gigs sometimes, because I want to just go with what my feelings are at the time and let it out, So singing that song, you might take it a little bit relationship oriented, but it actually behind it is losing my father. Yes.
Well, maybe that's some of your father's jazz influence on you, because jazz was very freestyle music, and those guys just kind of made it up as they go along, although they didn't have lyrics particularly. But everybody, how everybody would sort of take turns doing their solo, and then whoever was the leader would bring it back and close it up, wrap it up, right?
Yes.
So, and I always liked that. I always thought of jazz as being very kind of, if you could equate it to painting, like an impressionist painting. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Well, let's listen to this. Yeah. Okay. Brighter Day.
It sounds good. Thanks.
Brighter Day by Joe Gande.
Another change of season. Another new romance. You gotta find a reason. Take a chance. A new direction. Your life's an open book. They got a misconception from how
Wow. That one was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You were right, though. It's very, I don't know it's kind of like a potpourri of sound. There's so much going on in that song.
Yeah, we pulled out the kitchen sink, I think. A lot of tracks.
It's very layered. I love those harmonies, the oohs at the beginning. And then it has a Beatles flavor to that song. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but there is something about it. Yeah.
They influence me and probably all of us, whether we know it or not.
There is
that's for sure.
It's something about the harmonies and the orchestration, and I don't know, some of the chord changes has a very John Lennon kind of sound about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm trying to get a picture of, you said that a lot of times when you don't just write out your lyrics and everything is done, you just kind of do it on the fly. So when you go into the studio, do you basically just kind of set up a jam session and just record and see what happens and go back to it if it's good and kind of build up on it?
Well, on this record, it was, I would say yes. I have songs and ideas. We get into a rehearsal room and try them all out and everything and go through. I have certain vision and, it's all in my head, all the different parts and stuff. And we go through it like that first and then just jam and see what happens, And then later what I would do, we tape every rehearsal. Every rehearsal was recorded. So then I'd go home and study all the tracks and look for those magical moments, and those things like, yes, that's the right drum solo, or oh my God, those type of things.
Right.
And then we'd go back in the rehearsal and put it together with all those magical moments and then just let it fly. And when we recorded this, it was not digital. It's all tape, the old school way. So, and we did the rhythm tracks, bass, guitar, and drums live because I wanted to have that old feel and create that kind of real magical vibe that musicians can get as opposed to all doing separate parts in different rooms, and that kind of thing that most people do. So we're all in the same room and had to let it go, and do a couple takes and pick one of the takes and then build on it from there. I would go in and overdub the rest, the vocals and the rest of the stuff. But lyrically, I'd have a basic idea in my head when I would write the song on an acoustic or piano, in its, infant form, but I wouldn't have everything a lot of time. And live, if we do a new song, some of the guys would be like, what do you mean you don't have the lyrics? I'm like, I'll just say what comes to mind with, what kind of day it is today, but they would all, be relevant, of course, and I would just let it fly. And then those would end up being the lyrics. And it seems to work for me.
I got a story for you that is kind of similar to that. The guy who has produced 4 of my songs, Stuart Epps, is a fairly famous producer. He's worked primarily with Elton John. He told me a story about how they had at the Mill Studio in the UK, they were set up to do a recording, and it was Elton with, like, I forget exactly the title of the album, but it was like Elton with a bunch of guests. Mm-hmm. And the guest that he had was Chris Difford from Squeeze. Remember them?
Yes.
And they had like this orchestra set up, and they had a percussion section. There was 20 people in the studio ready to do a live take, right? Of course, Elton, being Elton, was the last one to arrive. So everyone's waiting and waiting for Elton. Finally, Elton shows up, and he said, okay, is everybody ready to go? And they said, yeah. And he said, okay, give me 5 minutes. I got to write the song.
That's the greatest.
And and he told me that story, and I'm just like rolling on the floor laughing.
That is so great. I like that. It's spontaneous then,
Absolutely. But,
the true feelings come out right there on the spot. Yeah.
Some of the best artists are just, they work right off the cuff, Don't give them a script, because they won't follow it. But just leave them alone and let the energy go, and they'll make something brilliant.
I remember reading about Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. He used to go in the hallway of whatever studio and just jot down stuff like 2 minutes before he had to sing. He also does that. I don't know about now, but back in the day, he did come up with things on the fly too. So.
Yeah. The one thing I like about your music, well, many things I like about your music, but the one particular thing I like about it is that you don't lose the core of the performance, by, like you said, having everybody going into a separate room and doing their little bits. If you're all in a room together, at least the guts of the song, you capture that soulful moment, which I don't care how great computers and Pro Tools are, you're going to miss that if you don't record it that way. A lot of people would disagree with me, but unless you capture the performance of the energy of the 3 or 4 musicians sitting in a room together, looking at each other, playing off each other, you don't have it.
You don't capture those moments and those oh my God moments the other way. I mean, everybody has their thing, and they've made great headway in digital recording and all that, and it's great. And I'm currently working on some new material combining both, tape and Pro Tools and stuff like that. But there's certain warmth and those mistakes in those sounds and feedback and things that's supposed to be there that make the classics great aren't really there anymore. It's kind of sterile.
The human element gets removed.
Yes, I agree. That's why I wanted to do it that way. And it gets costly doing it that way.
Oh,
and also,
no kidding.
Many hours and a lot of rehearsing, a lot of preparation beforehand and for the musicians, and then you just go in and let it fly. And I think it's the best way. But these days, I don't even know if anybody uses 2-inch tape anymore. Maybe, but even some of the famous acts, it's all done on a laptop sometimes.
Yeah. What does 2-inch tape cost these days? Do you know?
Oh God, I don't even know. I don't really know. I think then quite a few $1,000s just for a couple of reels.
Yeah, I know it was really expensive.
It's crazy, but it does have a certain sound and quality to it and warmth and nuances in the music. I mean, if you listen to the record with headphones, you can really hear a lot of cool stuff going on.
Oh, I just did, and I'm going to listen to it again after we get off
I got a little crazy with that, doing with the Beatles stuff and listening to a lot of things and stuff behind your head and on the sides and in different areas, of the listening spectrum. And in Brighter Day, we have a French horn in there, strings, and I got very involved in the tracking afterward.
Something you said was interesting. We were talking about the warmth of something when you're on tape, that it just captures that certain, it's hard to put a finger on a word to describe that particular. I just call it the soul. But
that's it.
What's interesting about Pro Tools is now they've gotten to where you can add that, or at least try to. I've seen effects that say things like tape feel.
Right. Yeah. They have lots of different tube amplifiers.
Right. Tube amplifiers. Yeah. And I'm looking at that going, why would you want to, first of all, remove all of that and then try to add it back in?
Yeah.
When you can just plug in a Fender amp and go,
Right. It helps. And we've gotten much better than at the beginning of those days, but it's still not quite the same. But that's my opinion. A lot of guys do great work with Pro Tools. And one of the engineers who worked on this record used to work for Digidesign. We did a few things near the end in his Pro Tools studio, and he was a genius. For example, adding my dad's saxophone on the end of Can't See My Life.
Well, that was brilliant. Yeah.
A few little vocal things I wanted to do, or harmonies I wanted to add at the end. We did go in there and I recorded in there. And it's a little bit of a combination. But the core song, like you said, was all tape and in the studio and live.
Right. And I think that's what makes your music so great, is that you're not losing that. You're not sacrificing that for convenience, of just being able to cut and paste it all in. If you cut and paste a little bit over here and a little bit over there to fill it in, that's cool. Mm. But like you said, the core of the song, the guts of the song is real.
Yeah. And the performances are from beginning to end. There was very little splicing and cutting and pasting. There was very little, except for little added, nuances at the end. But the performances, even my vocal performances, very few did I have to stop and start. Whereas now, like a guy will sing a chorus and then they paste it in all the choruses.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, but like I'd start the song and end the song. So it's the same Joe's take singing from beginning to end, which includes all the feelings and emotions and all that stuff all the way to the end. So you hopefully capture that. But when you paste everything in, it's like building Frankenstein, I mean, it's soulless, really, because it's the same chorus in all three. Maybe at the end of the song, you're more emotional. There's highs and lows in music. And when you paste everything and it's all flat and very polished, I'm not a big fan. It's not my thing.
We hit on this a little bit when you were on the show the last time about, and it
I think so, yeah.
It pisses me off that a lot of these so-called major stars can't sing a song from beginning to end,
Yeah,
I mean, come on. That to me, that's like a basic requirement to being a singer. Is that you should be able to sing a 3-minute song, without having to have it overdubbed. Well, not overdubbed, but stopping, cutting, and pasting. If you can't just sit in a room and sing a song, then you don't have any business calling yourself a singer.
Yeah, how can the story play out if it's all kind of just stuck in there and you did it one time and it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't think it resonates with people as much, but, people are so used to the new way that.
Yeah, they don't know any.
Many of them might not know the difference. But,
they don't know any better, I guess. Yeah.
I think they do catch the feel because a lot of the reaction from this record we did is mostly about feelings and how it has touched people in whatever way, which is important to me. Probably the most important thing. So I think it was good to do it this way. But again, it was a big, undertaking. I was very lucky to have the musicians and the best, and I can't talk about it enough, really, to be able to put it all together. And the mastering's important as well, because that's what seals it all together and enables it for radio play. So that's another important factor not many people even talk about. We were lucky to do it at Sterling Sound. I think music's supposed to have some feelings in it, no? I mean,
yeah, I think so. Jeez, what a concept.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Right. We were talking about jazz being sort of impressionistic music, and I heard a really good sort of description of what is the difference between, and I'll use this to relate to digital music versus what you're doing, okay, like a real performance. It's the difference between a photograph and a painting. Mm-hmm. A photograph captures a moment in time with a mechanical device. Mm-hmm. A painting captures the emotion that the artist felt at that moment looking at whatever it is that he was painting.
That's so great. That's a great way to think about it. Yes, I agree. Yeah. Every minute your feelings are changing as life is going on. So, yeah.
If somebody's painting a landscape or something and then the sun is moving or the weather's changing or they think about, the girlfriend that just dumped them or whatever, it affects the way that the painting will look. The emotion gets conveyed in that painting, just like music. But when you just take a snapshot with a digital camera or any kind of camera, you lose that. Okay.
Yeah, it has its own thing.
Yeah.
But it's, you do lose that. It's true.
Let's get another song. Let's do another one.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Which one do you want to go for?
Maybe, Been So Many Years.
Okay. Any story behind that one?
I don't know. Let me think a sec. Nothing in particular. It's,
okay.
It's relationship oriented, girl and a guy thing. And,
all right. Well, let's just go for it then. This is Joe Gande, Been So Many Years.
I'd really like to see you naked, but first, this song.
Oh, it's been so many years since I was a fool, babe. I've been to many changes in my
That was nice. What was that right at the end of the song? My headphones almost exploded with the bass sound. What was that? Is it like a timpani drum or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I told you I got a little crazy with the instrumentation and the orchestra and strings and stuff like that. Yes.
Oh, it's very nice. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Douglas.
And you can really feel it. I know we're beating a dead horse, but it's just, that music has just got so much power and so much soul. And it just took me away for 5 minutes. And
yeah, I haven't listened to it for a long time myself, so I was kind of lost for a few minutes too.
and also, I just lost what I was going to say. I just lost my train of thought completely.
I do that all the time.
Oh, it sucks getting old.
I know, doesn't it?
I'll remember it. But, oh yeah, great stuff. Oh, the chords. That's what I wanted to comment about. You've got some really cool changes in there with the augmented chords and things. Some nice stuff. Yeah. And it's like, people don't use those chords anymore. I don't hear those.
When I was doing the record, some of the engineers and the musicians were like, you can't use that chord in rock. And I'm like, why not? Does it sound good? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, then use it. So, but that's, I think, just through osmosis in the jazz thing.
Yes.
Also the drums.
Right.
The drums in the guitar solo area is like a big band type vibe going on.
I picked that up on the bass line. When the guitar solo kicked in, the bass has a very jazz sound to it.
Yeah, walking bass line.
Yes, yeah.
Jazz drumming. So, yeah.
Your dad's with you. He's in you,
I guess so. Yeah.
Definitely.
There's a little story at the beginning, if you hear that little thing I say at the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Who did you want to see naked? Who was that?
A little campy and funny there. It's kind of like a little Beatles-esque kind of vibe talking at the beginning, but that just refers to, at the time, it's just kind of a musician humor, I would say, being in the studio and getting called all the time on your cell phone, or having the girl you're seeing show up, and you can't deal with that because you have to focus on the music. So basically, I was going through that at that time. So when I went into the booth, I just said that, and it just came out like that. They added a little effect on it to make it sound, cool. But basically, I was making everybody laugh in the control room because sometimes, as we know, relationships can be like that. And I must have got like 20 phone calls that, while I'm trying to record the song, I had to throw the phone away. And I walked in and I said that.
Oh, it was funny. Yeah. It wasn't expecting it. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it doesn't really go with the rest of the song, but it does in a way. It's just kind of like, give me a second. I'll call you back. I got to get down to business.
Oh, it was good. Hey, it works if you say it works,
Yes,
That's all. Our time is running very short, and I really want to play one more song, unless you just want to chat.
You could play another one if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to hear another one. We got time for like one more, or we can chat for another 5 minutes. So let's just do another song. Which one do you want to play?
Well, I think "Save Me." Circa 73's instrumental. It's a guitar, bass, and drums song, and most of the times I'm very song oriented. So you don't have a lot of that, a lot of solos going on and stuff. It's all about creating the song in the moment. So we went in for a jam session and did that, and we threw that on the record. And it's very early 70s vibe. But "Save Me," I think is more appropriate right now. I think people might dig it. You might like it.
Any story on "Save Me"?
No, just going through life and searching for what it's all about, I guess.
All right. Well, here is "Save Me" by Joe Gande.
What you what you're searching for now, baby. You just might find it in me. You know there ain't no rhyme or reason, 'cause what you get is what you see.
I love the bongos in that one. That's what stood out
Yeah.
for me, was the great rhythm track on that song.
Thank you. Yeah.
Joe, we are totally out of time. We got just enough time to say goodbye. The album is called The Godsend Sessions, available on everywhere, right?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. The best place to buy it, I think, would be joegande.bandcamp.com. But you can find it everywhere online, pretty much.
Okay, super. Well, Joe, thanks again for coming on the show. I always love having you on. We could just talk for hours and hours about music and about the evils of digital recording.
I know. Thanks so much, Douglas, for having me again and for making me feel so comfortable. You know, it's I could talk for hours as well, and I rarely do this. It's not something I really like to do that often. You know, I guess it's a shy thing, but I'll come on anytime for you.
Thank you so much, Joe. All right.
Thank you.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my very special guest, Joe Gande. This is Douglas Coleman saying goodbye.
To the mile, you've got to run, not walk. To give a sermon, you've got to preach, not talk. To reach the mountain, you've got to climb, not dream. It's a big